In 1609, Basque women accused in a massive witch trial confessed to having traveled through the air to attend satanic assemblies in Terre-Neuve, perching atop ships' masts, poisoning the ketch as it dried on the shore, and sinking ships. Note 2. All the Europeans who came to exploit the fisheries, the English and the Irish, who made up the majority of settlers, as well as the French, Channel Islanders, Basque, Portuguese, and Scots, brought witch tales, if not witches, that proved to be hardy transplants. Stories of spells became staples of oral tradition in outport societies, where a great many women, and some men too, acquired the epithet witch. Their names, unlike those of their counterparts in Europe or early America, appear in no court records. Until university-based ethnographic research began in the 1960s, only a handful of written references noted their existence. Professional scholars broke the ground, but the best reports came from students in folklore classes who interviewed family and friends or drew on their own experience. Over the next 3 decades, their contributions to the Memorial University of Newfoundland Folklore and Language Archive, MUNFLA, mounted to hundreds of counts of witching, as the matter is commonly called when someone puts a spell or wish on someone else. I have combined some of this material, which I cite by the year in which it was recorded, with my own interviews, conducted mostly in the early 1990s, to consider how some people came to believe that others could influence their fortunes through sheer force of will. Some people, not all. The first thing to know is that witch lore is not common knowledge in Newfoundland, but is stronger in some places than in others. Even where it is well known, it's not necessarily taken as true. Not everyone is like William Haywood, a fisherman in his 70s, who told me, "We've been plagued with witches all our lives. There were thousands around here." He was using a traditional exaggeration. One can speak of thousands of money, for there are only several thousand people altogether in his town, which at that is one of the biggest in the province. The island of Newfoundland is huge, about half the size of the United Kingdom, or just a little bigger than Cuba or Ohio, and its population small, just over 500,000 at present, including Labrador on the mainland, which adds another 294,330 square kilometers. Newfoundland and Labrador is the official name of the province, but I will refer to Newfoundland throughout this study for the sake of brevity, and since most of the examples come from the island. Communities on the island are studded along 9,656 kilometers, about 6,000 miles, of jagged glaciated coast, headlands, islands, peninsulas, bays within bays. Archival data clearly show which places harbor the most witch lore. Mr. Haywood's town, for instance, stands out as a veritable hotbed. "It was incredible the number of people who believed in witches," wrote a student who grew up there in the 1940s and 1950s. "And the number of events, both major and minor, that were blamed on witchcraft, everything from difficulty in starting a motor to lingering illnesses." 79-1. In contrast, there are places where it's hard to find a single story. The reason has partly to do with ethnicity. The English have the witches and the Irish have the fairies, Earl Mackay told me. This was an overgeneralization. Earl himself had been both fairy-led and cursed by an angry landlady. Note 3. But it is true enough that predominantly English and Protestant areas, such as Bonavista or Notre Dame Bays, have more witch lore than predominantly Irish and Catholic areas, such as the Southern Shore or Cape Shore. Moreover, comparison of material from the witch-rich English counties of Dorset, Devon, and Somerset readily shows that they are the parent stock of the Newfoundland strain. National origin, however, only partly explains the problem of uneven distribution. Some English communities, for instance, have relatively little witch lore. This is especially true of the Avalon Peninsula, which, as the oldest settled part of the province, might be expected to have the most, yet has the least.